All right, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 4. Realistically, episode 3 because we fucked up the last one. And as you can tell, episode 3. We're gonna title this episode 3 because episode 3 doesn't exist anymore. We're gonna title this episode 3, and as you can see, the different environment and different people. Will could
Hello.
not join us today. Will did not want to do Discord number one, and two doesn't want to figure it out, and I commend him for that because this took us 20 minutes just to get the fucking image to look good. So, today we're going to talk about just some stuff. This is my friend Joey Guinan here. But wait, before we get into him, like we said at the end of episode 2 and episode 3 that you guys couldn't hear, me and Will now live hundreds of miles apart from each other, so we are not going to be able to sit and do the podcast like we used to. Obviously, in August, when we get back to school, our goal is to put out one a week. If that doesn't happen, it'll be one every other week. But for now, I'm going to run the show and have a couple people on. We're hoping Will comes around to do it eventually. And I'm in Manassas, Virginia, in federal government housing. On the Manassas National Battlefield Park as an intern here. Really been enjoying it so far. Training is training, but I'm excited to become, new opportunities and stuff like that and what it's going to entail. Like I said before, this is Joey Guinan, one of my lifelong buddies, I would hope to say. We were baptized on the same day. It's a fun
That's
fact.
pretty cool, yeah.
It's a fun fact. By probably a
Alright.
child toucher, but we don't really have to
Whoa, 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 whoa,
mention
whoa.
that. He didn't touch us. Um,
Well, he did when he baptized us.
That's true. It's true. So
Yeah.
we were right.
Cool. Yes.
But yeah, you can take the floor here, speak a little bit, and then we'll move into our first little John Scabroni action.
Alright, I mean, like, I'm not the greatest with podcasts, but I'm just gonna give it my all. So I'll just talk about my career and how I basically, instead of taking the route of college, I decided to get right into the workforce because I feel like there's better opportunities for me given my, I would say, like, uncomfortable, like, feeling towards debt. I don't really like the idea of spending a bunch of money on college.
Couldn't agree more.
So I
Six
figured
sixty
that,
thousand dollars.
there you go. So I figured that trying to get into trade school while working at a company that builds signs, I get to learn stuff about welding, some HVAC stuff, and even carpentry because they make wood signs as well. And I've just been working there for a little bit. And hopefully by the end of the summer, I'll be in the electrician's trade and I'll be starting that career path. And I was top 1000 in Rocket League because obviously you gotta flex.
Um. Yeah. Yeah. Cool, man. So
Cool, man.
I haven't heard. We haven't talked enough for me to know about this sign company. If you don't have to say the name of it, but what?
It's called Foreman Signs basically. It's been around for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Uh, you're familiar with the Roosevelt Boulevard, obviously.
Uh huh.
They made some signs for the mall up there.
Oh, cool.
So that they're like a big company. They're not like small.
Oh, so
Yeah.
they're not making street signs; they're making like big.
No, that they're making like big like signs like you could hang them 40 feet up in the sky. Like they're not like small.
Like shopping center things like that and shit.
Yes, yes. They made like Acme signs, Redner signs, ShopRite, stuff like that.
Cool, man. That's actually
Yeah.
all right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's Joey. I'm happy to have him to step in here in the 11th hour, um,
Of course.
because me and Will have been really trying to get one out. Like we haven't had one in. I mean, we tried the fucking third episode and that didn't even work. So it's probably been a month. It's been close to a month since we've had one. I mean, it's at least been 2.5 weeks. But hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend. Enjoyed the long weekend. Obviously, all of the kids our age are degenerates right now. Besides the people who are the people who are working.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I said, I'm here in Manassas, Virginia, living and working on the Manassas National Battlefield Park in the Interpretation Division as an intern. I thank the Pohanka Internship Program out of Gettysburg College for funding this and helping this situation out. But yeah, we're on our second week of training. We are 3 days away, or 4, excuse me, from finishing this journey, which is definitely a necessary one. But I'm over it. I'm not ready to, because we definitely need more training, but I want to get into the nitty-gritty and the stuff you love. Obviously, with every job, even if you love it, there's going to be days that are not what you want to do. And even as you move up in the Park Service, the National Park Service, as you become higher and higher, you get away from further and further from what you love. But I'm going to just yap a little bit about what I'm going to do. But yeah, like I said, Joseph, welcome to the Battles and Banquets podcast. Glad to have you. And
Thanks for having me, man.
And yeah, I mean,
Appreciate it.
we're gonna really try and hammer some things home, like I'm talking about the Battle of Bull Run and the first battle at least. I'm gonna pull this up for you guys here. So I am an interpretative intern, and I've been working on. I'm gonna put this over your face, Joseph, if that's okay. Actually,
Go for it, man.
I'll put it.
Get me out of here.
I'll put it in the middle, so we're kind of still there.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, like I'm typing out my my program and working on what I'm gonna talk about. But first, I'll just yap. So interpretation is a fancy word for what the park rangers that face the public do. Because the way that we're relaying the information to you is our interpretation of the primary and secondary sources that we use to interpret the battle of what happened. And that's what a lot of this training that we did this week is learning what interpretation was and how we're going to interpret and, canceling out the biases that are going to come with interpretation and stuff like that. But yeah, interpretation is just a fancy word of giving tours and interpreting the history. Because every historian's going to have a different interpretation of what happened at each battle. Obviously, there's cold hard facts, and we have official records and primary sources. But we also have our interpretation of other things, like where exactly, maybe Jackson in this battle, where was he actually standing when Bernard B gave him his famous name, or what time did, like, certain things. What time did the firing erupt over the stone bridge and stuff like that? Obviously, we have hard records of certain things and the delay and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's been good. I mean, we've had some bumps during training that I was not happy with and that I will not really express here. But, certain things that just were like, we were wasting time and just people, I don't like people, so it's just the way it is. But yeah, so the Battle of Bull Run happened on July 21st, 1861. And it's going to be a decisive Confederate victory in the end. And it's going to change the outlook on how people perceive the war. In the Civil War, a lot of people. So on April 15th, 1861, that's 3 days after the firing of Fort Sumter. Abraham Lincoln's going to call for 75,000 volunteers from the states, and that's what's going to bring a lot of southern states to secede, like Virginia. And all of these volunteers are going to be on 90-day contracts. So if you think about it, April to July, depending on what day of the month, that's 90 days. So the reason why this battle is going to be fought is because there's pressure from congressmen, from Lincoln himself, and from the soldiers. They want to fight a battle before their contracts are up. And their outlook on the battle is very calm. There's one soldier from the, I hope this is right, the 7th Georgia, that says, "I fear death like the sting of a bee." There's a lot of these soldiers are going to join because they want to have some fun and they want to have some adventure, and they want a big core value of the time was glory. They wanted to get glory, and they wanted to fight a battle. On July 18th, 1861, General McDowell, the overall commander of the Northeastern Army of Virginia, before the war, he was a veteran of the Mexican-American War, Mexican-American War, but he never commanded a force of more than 12 men. He's now going to be put in charge of 32,000. So put that into perspective. Although Bull Run was one of the best planned battles by military historians, it's going to fall apart very, very, very quickly. How much do you know about Bull Run there, Joseph?
Probably little to nothing.
No.
Is like Stonewall Jackson
Stonewall
part of the
Jackson gets
battle?
his name at Bull Run.
All right. Well, that's about all I know then. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say that's about it. Yep.
I'm just going to keep on yapping.
I mean, I'll throw some questions in for you. I'll ask some stuff.
All right. I mean, you don't have to like manufacture them.
Nah, I will. You're good.
But yeah. So General McDowell's going to order General Tyler, which is one of his division commanders, to push forward to Bull Run, which he's in. They are in. I don't think they're in Centerville yet. They might be in. I don't know, but they're going to move towards Centerville, and they're going to push the banks of Bull Run on July 18th. But he tells him not to engage in a. Oh, what's the word? Is it in my little to bring on a? I really hope it's in this, because if it's not, I'm going to be very upset. It's not in here. Whatever. So, to not bring on a general engagement, to not force a battle, General Tyler will end up doing that, and it's called the Battle of Blackburn's Ford. 35 men are going to be dead. It's going to prove to the Union that the Confederate are willing, able, and capable of fighting the Union Army and doing it well. That's going to be not General at the time, but James Longstreet, a very key figure throughout the entire Civil War, who's going to fight General Tyler. Now, the reason that the Confederates are in the area, they're protecting Manassas Junction. They're a very key railroad. And the railroads are going to be important for the Confederates. They're going to bring in ammo, food, weapons, and troops to the battlefield. And the day before the Battle of First Manassas, General Johnston's going to send about 80% of his 11,000 troops in the Shenandoah Valley to Manassas Junction by rail. It'll be the first time in North American history that troops are rushed to the battlefield by rail. Which is a cool kind of thing to think about. But like I said, the troops are very... they don't treat this like a real war. They think it'll be one or two battles and we all go home and we all get back together and we're all friends. And obviously this will be the bloodiest war in American history to date. No war has accumulated more casualties than the American casualties than the American Civil War. And, in fact, only just recently has all other wars that America has fought in totaled the amount of American casualties as the Civil War. So Civil War used to have more than all total wars. Now, obviously, it's more. But, yeah, I mean, the Civil War claimed 750,000 soldiers, American dead, and that includes the 286 or X number Confederate dead, and obviously they are Americans. It's also going to claim about 100,000 civilians and enslaved people.
Patrick.
Yes.
I was gonna ask, but I didn't want to cut off like anything that you're gonna say, so I figured I'd catch you when you're slowing down a bit. But would you say that Confederates' victories were directly related to their railroad resupplies? And do you think that if the Union was to stop the railroad resupplies, like from the start, that the Confederate wouldn't have had a chance? Like, I want to hear your personal opinion on that.
So actually, the goal was General Patterson, and General McDowell are supposed to fight. General Patterson's also a Union commander, but he's going to be in the Shenandoah Valley with Johnston. General Patterson's job is to hold Johnston in the valley and to keep his troops from moving to Manassas. So if
So to keep
Patterson,
them from resupplying?
well, to keep him from bringing
Okay.
more troops in, like I said,
Right.
Johnston brings 80% of his force in the Shenandoah Valley. So 80% of 11,000 is whatever 9,000 or whatever the number would
Yeah,
be.
like 9,300,
Yeah.
something like that.
So So if Patterson were to do his job and keep them from getting on the trains and bringing those forces over, and namely Stonewall Jackson is going to come through, and Stonewall Jackson's going to be a key figure here at Bull Run. So
Mhm.
my interpretation would be yes, but the thing to remember is the Union weren't going to be able to take the railroad before July 21st because um, there's going to be about 22,000 Confederates in the area by July 21st. Hold on one second. I have numbers in this book that I can actually read. Um,
Right. Okay.
so, like, there's going to be. So, so on May 21st, 1861, there's going to be about oh, God. There's going to be about 7,000 Confederates in the area. And,
So not 80%.
well, no, that's before.
Little.
That's
Oh, okay. Okay.
before the entire battle. But by the time that the opening guns, well, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, well, by the time the opening guns fire, the Confederates are going to end up having more men than the Union, or close to the same amount of men. So that is actually a very good question. And so, yes, there was a way for them to prevent this if Patterson were to do his job in the Shenandoah Valley, but it is important to remember that there's probably no way that the Union would be able to capture that junction in time for
Yeah.
to block that. Um, and it's also important to remember that on May 9th, or on May 14th, there's 918 Confederate men in the Manassas area defending the junction. 1 week later, on May 20, or 2 weeks later, on May 27th, there's almost 7,000. So the Confederates know how key the junction is, and so do the Union. So that's why this engagement's going to take place.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, like I was saying, these soldiers are one ill-equipped, two ill-trained, and three don't have the right mindset going into this battle. And when this battle takes place, it's going to be the bloodiest day in American history. At the end of the day. So yeah, at the goal for General McDowell is for his army to get behind the Confederate line. The Confederate line is very strong in the center, so he decides to flank them and hit them from the side, and then the goal would be to get Manassas Junction. And this whole plan hinges on surprise. So General McDowell's plan is to leave at 2:30 in the morning to march his troops across Bull Run about 4 miles, probably a little less than that, 2 miles maybe, to the north of the far left of the Confederate line, which is going to be held by Colonel Evans,
Right.
who is going to have South Carolina they say 10 companies of South Carolina men. I think it's probably less. And 1 battalion of Louisianians. This is a big thing that I was trying to figure out today. What are people from Louisiana called? Louisianians? I don't know. But men from Louisiana, basically. So at 2:30 in the morning, they're going to set off. First blunder. General Tyler only has about a 5-mile walk. A 2 to 3 mile walk. The flanking column has a 5 to 6 mile walk. General Tyler is going to be in front. That's a mistake. The flanking column should be in front. That way they can start their flanking movement, and General Tyler can walk the short distance to the Stone Bridge, which is where he's going to play a diversionary attack on Colonel Evans. So hopefully they skirmish, and then McDowell flanks them and comes from behind. That's the best way I can explain it without a map. Obviously, when I give a tour, I will be on the field so I can point to things and make it seem
Right.
you can visualize it. And also, people will have maps and etc. And hopefully, people know where the stone bridge is when they come to the visitor center. But of course, some people have no idea. That's why when visitors come in, we have a film. We recommend people watch the film. That way, they can pick up a few things. And also, in the museum, we have a little bit of a light up battle map, and they can it has little lights to show where the troops were, and it's a little bit easier to explain. But yeah, I mean, that's gonna be the first blunder. So General Tyler is going to hold up that flanking column, and then about 1 mile from the stone bridge, probably a little bit more, closer to 2 miles, they're going to cross Cub Run on a rickety old suspension bridge. And this bridge is not going to be capable of, one, the troop movement that's about to cross it, two, the artillery and the horses are too heavy to cross this bridge, and they also are going to have a 30-pounder Parrott gun. There's a huge gun, ginormous gun. It's going to weigh close to 3 tons. It's not going to be able to support it. So that, they're going to have to reinforce the bridge, which is going to set them back about an hour. So at this point, they're probably behind 2 hours of schedule. The goal is for everybody to be in position before the daylight breaks, and General McDowell's flanking column will not splash across Bull Run until 7 o'clock. And all of his troops won't be across until 9. So they're going to be extremely, extremely behind. You know, let alone, sorry, 9:30 actually. They're gonna cross Sudley Ford, which is the main crossing of where McDowell's troops will cross. See, I do have all 3 blunders in here. I have a 3rd blunder in this one. I know I do. Oh, yeah. So the 3rd blunder is these troops are volunteers and they're not trained. It's blackberry season in Virginia. Troops are going to stop and pick blackberries. We have many primary sources that say that troops were picking blackberries on their flanking movement. It's like a kid when he sees a butterfly, like, oh.
Wait, why were they so fixated on the blackberries?
Well, you're just hungry. Yeah, they're just, they were just everywhere. They were just like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Free
food, basically. Yeah.
And they probably weren't eating very well in the army. So, yeah, I mean, and then here's another problem. Since they were so delayed, they had signal stations 7 miles apart. I know the time is on here. Sorry about that. Confederate signal station on Wilcoxon Farm. It's 7 miles away. They have a big telescope, and then they have flags to send signals. It's like a Morse code, but instead they have a certain way of right is 1, left is 2, down forward.
Okay, so
forward is 3.
It's not different. It's not different flags like color based. It's like actual Morse code.
Yeah, movement. Yeah, movement. And then this,
right.
I talked to one of my buddies, John Thomas, here at the battle park. He splits his time between maintenance and the interpretation department. He is very, very knowledgeable on the signal station, and he's done a lot of research. They had to make new codes once a week. That's how, not how intricate they were, but that's how good, it would only take a little bit of time for them to crack these codes. So once a week, they would make a new code, and they would burn their books, their log books. So there's very little actual symbols, very little sources of what we know about the signal flags, but we know how it was used and stuff like that. But at 8:45, Colonel Evans is going to get a signal flag saying, "Look out for your left. You are turned." And the guy on Wilcoxon, his name is Porter Alexander. I hope I got that right. But he's going to look through his telescope, and while looking at the signal station on the Van Pelt farm, he's going to see a glistening in the distance. And it's going to be the tops of the Union column's muskets. They're going to glisten in the sun because they're polished, brand new muskets. And that's going to be the McDowell's flanking movement coming around. So that you are turned. Evans is now going to move his troops from the Stone Bridge to north towards Pennsylvania Farm and then out to Matthews Hill, where the opening main battle shots are going to be fired. Now, General Tyler is going to open the battle at the Stone Bridge with a little diversionary attack, but the Confederates are not convinced. General Tyler didn't really make it look like that this was a real attack. He kind of just shot a few guns. It was like, look at me, and it's not going to fool Colonel Evans and Colonel Wheat and the Confederates. And then at 9:30, all the Union troops are going to cross Sudley Ford, and then at 10 o'clock, B's brigade, he's going to arrive. Bernard B, who will end up giving Jackson his name, will arrive on Henry Hill. And at 10:10, the first major land battle of the United States will officially start. McDowell's lead columns and of Rhode Island men and with artillery and Colonel Evans' South Carolina boys are going to battle on Matthews Hill. And at the beginning, the Union is gonna kick some ass. They're gonna push the Confederates off of Matthews Hill, back to Henry Hill and up the hill. And actually, McDowell is even seen saying. I have the quote here. I think it's better for me to say this quote here. He's even gonna ride down his line shouting, "Victory, victory! The day is ours." Thinking that this is a decisive Union victory. Little did the Union know that their eventual fate will be ahead of them on Henry Hill. And eventually, at first, McDowell's going to blunder again. He's going to send his artillery onto Henry Hill with no infantry support. And another problem, if you have ever been to Manassas, the guns are about 300 yards away. And for smoothbore guns, which is just a straight tube, basically, a cannon, all the Union guns are rifled, so they have a longer distance. The Union are going to overshoot their targets because they cannot defuse their guns, which means to bring the gun down enough to fire at the cannons and get over the rolling nature of Henry Hill.
Is that because of like how high up they are?
So
Like
they're on pretty level ground. The Confederates are going to be on a little bit higher of a knoll, but the Union guns are rifled. You know what rifled means? They have they have like a.
Don't they have like the spiral on the inside?
Yeah, spiral. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
so
spiral on the inside.
Yeah, so those guns are going to be able to shoot much further.
Right.
But
And more
there's
accurate
a rolling hill basically between the two armies, and they can't pull the gun down enough to get over the hill and be able to hit their target. So they have to raise them up a little bit, and then that's going to cause them to overshoot. And when Bernard B's regiment pulls back behind the Confederate line, they're going to come under this fire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be able to hit the treetops, and that's going to send wood splintering down and shrapnel and B is attempting to encourage his men at around 2 o'clock. At around 2 o'clock, all Confederates are on the south side of the Warrenton Turnpike, where present-day Route 29. They're all going to be on Henry Hill, and Johnston and Beauregard will be in the area and will establish their army headquarters at the Portici plantation. And McDowell is going to issue an order forward at about 1:30. Captain James Ricketts is going to arrive on Henry Hill around 2 o'clock. And around that same time, he's going to get Confederate fire from the Henry House, which is a big a house on the hill. And he is going to turn the two closest of his guns on the house and fire directly into it. Little did he know there were 3 civilians in the house. One of them was 80-year-old, I think she was 84, 84-year-old Judith Henry, who is going to be killed. And he is going to actually be known of saying, he is going to say, "I turned my guns on the house and literally riddled it." That is a direct quote from Ricketts. And that will be his first. That will be the first known civilian casualty of the Civil War, and it's going to open a whole new realm for the American population and eventually 50,000. The number raises every day as we get more archaeological studies and stuff like that. But right now, the number is close to 50,000 American civilians will be caught in the crossfire of battle. But at around the same time, B is going to attempting to encourage his men after pulling off of Matthews Hill and losing their comrades and finally seeing what this battle really is about, and saying, "Yonder stands Jackson like a stone wall." And there's a lot of interpretations of what he really says because we don't really know, but we do know that there stands Jackson like a stone wall is one of the things he's going to say, and that's where Stonewall Jackson's going to get his nickname, and that will be his nickname to present day, until his men unfortunately shoot him dead or shoot him mortally wounded, and he will die days later at the Battle of Chancellorsville. A decisive Confederate victory, but they will lose one of their famed corps commanders and extremely good corps commanders in Stonewall Jackson. And another thing is that's going to turn the outlook of the war. A lot of historians debate on what if Jackson was at Gettysburg and what if Jackson was able to live out the war. Would the Confederates would have won? And I don't like to play in hypotheticals, but Jackson would have been a key figure at Gettysburg and probably would have taken initiative on Culp's Hill. But other than that, like I said, Stonewall's going to fight. And then at 2:30, Griffin is going to move his two smoothbore cannons, which is what I was talking earlier, which have a smaller range that we're able to shoot. He's going to move them to the extreme right. And at this time, the head of artillery, his name's Barry, he's going to be there as well. And the goal is for them to shoot straight down the Confederate line and dislodge some cannons. That way they can take the hill. And yeah, I mean, it was a good idea in practice, but the 33rd Virginia of the Confederate Army is gonna be in the woods, and Griffin sees them and thinks they're Confederate force, but Barry, being a higher rank, is gonna say no, that's the reinforcements that I ordered. And in the Battle of Bull Run, there's going to be 250 different styles of uniforms worn by both sides. And that's going to be a major problem at this early time in the war. There's no standardization of the Army's uniforms. And that's going to be one of the problems, is they're not going to know who's who. So Barry overrules Griffin, and Griffin is going to get 2 shots off, which they can fire about 2 shots. I mean, usually they can fire 2 shots in about a minute. By the time they set up their guns and get the ammunition, they're going to fire 2 shots in about 15 minutes. The 33rd Virginia is going to march up out of the woods, and they're going to get eyes on them. And nobody's firing at the Virginians. They're going to get in within 50 paces, which is about 20, 30 yards. And they're going to they're going to level their muskets, and they're going to fire into the Union Army. And they're going to decimate Griffin's guns, and they're going to capture Griffin's guns, and that's going to be a turning point of the battle. At about 4:30. What'd you say, Joe?
I was just gonna ask. So between the Union generals and the Confederate generals, which ones would you say had more battlefield experience at this point, whether it was past wars or current?
So, the North are going to have many more political figures in battle.
So not experienced fighters, or just
Yeah, they're going to
political?
have a few. There's going to be a couple big veterans there, but the Confederates are definitely going to have the senior command.
So they have guys that have been in combat more.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of guys, a lot of West Point graduates. Of course,
Right.
there's plenty of West Point graduates on the north side too. But McDowell was third, not last, but I'm pretty sure it was third to last in his West Point class. Custer was last, although Custer was a famed commander, and he speaks for himself. Beauregard was an engineer. Longstreet was in the Mexican-American War. Lee had plenty of battlefield experience. But like I said, McDowell is going to have battle experience, but he's not going to have any commanding experience, and that's what they're going to probably miss out on the most.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, in my interpretation is, and basically most historians, and that's what the pros and cons are. The North and South. The South's going to have much better command, central command, and they're also going to have a purpose to fight for, X and Y. So,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, by 4:30, the Union lines on Henry Hill are going to begin to give way, and it's going to be just a retreat. It's going to be a fully, it's the retreat turns into a rout, um, and they're going to capture 8 pieces of artillery on Henry Hill, out of the 11 that were there by the Union. And the Confederates are going to win a decisive battle and maintain that railroad junction. Now, in the spring of 1862, the Confederates don't have enough force to hold the area, so they're going to pull out without even a fight. Um, and the Union will come in, and yeah, and that'll be a separate issue. But at 7 p.m., all Union troops are miles away across Cub Run, which I talked about earlier, and that's going to be the first battle of Bull Run. It's going to leave 868 dead. It's going to be the bloodiest battle in American history. But total about 4,700 are going to be killed, wounded, or missing from both sides, and it shocks everybody. It's going to change the outlook of the battle for many, many people. It's even General Bowden is going to say how he's going to regard saying about Jackson's bravery. He's going to be able to keep so cool in such a storm of shell and bullet. And speaking on that topic of what the outlook of the war was, one of the 20th Georgia Infantry is going to say, it's the general impression that peace will be declared in about 80 days, and the war's going to rage on for 4.5, 5 years. And a soldier in General Ambrose's Burnside's brigade, who will eventually become the Central Army of the Army of Potomac, he said, the campaign will be a short one and full of pleasure. So it's crazy to think,
that it went on for another
yeah,
5 years.
Yeah, and it's going to change the outlook of the war, and people are going to understand that many lives are going to be lost. 750,000 soldiers and almost 50,000.
I think just fathoming the fact that it's 5 years is hard to comprehend, because if you really think about it, when you really think about how long a year is, and then you think about that they were at war for 5 total years, or
Yeah, I mean,
4 or 5. Yeah,
it's
that's insane.
Yeah, so Fort Sumter, they're going to fire on Fort Sumter on April 12th, 1861, and Manassas will be the peace will be signed in April of 1865. So it's a long time, and the thing that one of the major themes of Bull Run and of the first battle of Manassas that we push is that change of mindset, and that's what we're learning basically, is what themes we're going to push, and the civilians caught in the crossfire is definitely one. I mean, for me, I'm more of a military tactics speaker. It's what my specialty is. There are people, some of my colleagues who are civilian, they don't know much about the actual military strategy and military history, and that's good because we want to diversify our programs, and having some who are very civilian based and very military history based is very good. Even to the fact that one of the people that are living with me are going to be an intern. We're actually we have a lot of information on a man named Andrew Redmond, who was an enslaved person for one of the plantations in the area, and he was a blacksmith, and we actually rebuilt his blacksmith shop, and the park is going to hire a blacksmith to work in the shop and talk to visitors. So there's a lot of things that with the change of staff that has been not radically changed, but there's been a lot of changes there. With we have a new chief of interpretation, Mr. Andrew Bentley, who's very knowledgeable and really wants to push certain things, and all of it looks awesome to me right now, and really make good changes for the public, which is what we want to do, and for the Park Service itself. But yeah, that's my spiel, Joseph.
I mean,
how long are? Oh my God, we're 40 minutes in.
wow, that's exactly what you wanted. That's pretty convenient,
we made it. All right, thank you for. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, I'm good on.
So a lot of stuff that you said I did have questions for, but once again I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no,
So like
shoot.
going back on like some of the topics, you were talking about the rolling hills between the Confederate
Yeah,
and the Union.
yeah.
Would that is that like a literal like so there's like three hills, the Confederate on one, the Union on the other, and then there's a group of hills in the middle, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I can show. You can see my screen,
yeah,
right?
show yeah, I can see it, yes. Because that's what like because know how you were saying to
Oh
visualize the
wow,
battlefield.
that's a person.
I'm trying to visualize the battlefield in a better like way, basically. So I need that.
So actually, this is a pretty good representation of what it would look like. I'm trying to see if there's one.
Let me full screen it real quick.
I'm trying to see if
My
there's a picture between the Confederate lines. So this is the Union batteries here. This is symbolized rickets.
wrote.
There's not going to be a shot across the battlefield, is it? Where is this? Oh, so that hill. This is a hill here, and then this hill
This
here.
is that the middle one,
That's the
basically.
middle one. Yep, and then the cannons are going to be
Okay.
not at this tree, but right in front of it. So yeah, I mean that's probably the
Okay.
best view that I could get you.
Yeah, because that's what I was trying to picture. I was trying to picture like what the rolling hills looked like. Like, was
Yeah,
it like a
yeah.
series of
So
them? Is what I was thinking.
so
Because in
here,
my head, I was thinking like two or three like separate rolling hills in between the battlefield,
yeah.
but
So
it was just
here
like a little
is
slant
here's the
slope.
Confederate artillery. Here's the
Okay,
Union
is that a map?
artillery,
Yeah,
and then this area here is where that
is
middle
the hill.
hill would be. Um.
All right.
So, yeah. Um. Yeah.
Did any generals die in this battle?
Yeah. So, the big one's gonna
Because
be
I missed out a couple
the big
of
one.
the
The big one's gonna be
things you said.
General. I don't know if it's General, but Bartow. Um,
Bartow.
he's gonna be a Georgian. He's gonna be the first Confederate. I believe it's General, but first Confederate officer to lose his life on the field, and it's actually he's also going to have a monument placed to him. And like I said, when the Confederates are going to have to retreat because they don't have the troops or supplies, the Union are going to come in and desecrate the monument and get rid of it. So we don't know where exactly it stood, but we do have a monument to Bartow now, and a wayside a sign explaining the whole that, and that's possibly the first monument to ever be put on any Civil War battlefield because that was placed there almost directly after the battle, if not probably in the spring of 18 in the late months of 1861. I wish I had the exact dates, but yeah, I mean that's the only one that I can think of right now. And then Bernard B. Who gave Jackson his name, is going to die. He's actually going to die shortly after saying that famous quote
Hmm.
of "There stands Jackson like a stone wall." So, yeah, I mean, it it's he's one of the big ones, and that's one of the reasons why. Yeah, Brigadier General Bernard B. That's one of the reasons why we don't know exactly what he said because he did fall right after. So
Right.
we only have oral history and what the other soldiers thought he said.
Going off of like word of mouth, basically,
Yeah, and
and what
obviously,
was written and documented.
yep,
So
yep, yep. But
yeah.
yeah, you have any other ones there, Joseph?
I mean, there were some at like the very, very beginning, like probably the first 5-10 minutes of the spiel you went on, but I can't
Yeah,
recall them at the moment.
that's all right.
So
That's all right. So
I will probably just like call it a day on that one, on that
yeah, I
topic
mean,
at
I
least.
was yapping for a little bit. We finally had this podcast being a history podcast, and as my knowledge builds on the battlefield, and as I get
Want to go towards the banquet side?
yeah, yeah, as
Yeah.
we get people on, like Justin knows a lot about history, and
Does he really?
yeah, Justin's a big military history guy. I mean, his father was
Oh,
father
all
was
right.
in the military, so
I thought it was more modern rather
yeah. I
than.
mean, he knows. He
Do you
knows
go? Do you go in depth on any battles or just like specifically?
on the
You know what I'm
podcast
talking about?
or
Yeah.
So
Like,
we
does it
haven't.
matter what battle it is, or do
No,
you
no,
just talk
no.
about?
We're gonna talk about. I mean, we talked about Dwight D. Eisenhower last in the episode 3 that we wanted to talk about history. We did talk about Dwight D. Eisenhower, and obviously,
Right, I didn't watch that one,
yeah.
so I
Well,
wouldn't know.
it's the one that has no audio, so nobody
Oh,
watched
okay. Well,
it.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Episode 1 we didn't have any history. In episode 2 we talked briefly on Alonzo Cushing, who was um, a Union artilleryman who had a brutal death and didn't win the Medal of Honor until Obama was in office. So almost 100 and I
What
think.
would you say it was well deserved?
Oh yeah, it should have been much earlier than that.
Yeah.
And it's surprising that it took that long. But yeah, we can move. We can move to a little bit more discussion, talk about careers and stuff now, which is what we have planned for the last part. So Joey, I'll ask you. I'll
Yeah.
let you talk for a little bit since I talked for literally 40 fucking minutes.
All
Um,
right.
so what is your plan here? So we know that you're doing you're working for Foreman Signs and that.
Yes.
So you're moving into the electrician's trade. Are you gonna go to a trade type of school? I mean, I guess you have
So
to.
I'm going to a trade school. It's IBEW,
Okay.
which is International Brotherhood Electrical some shit. I don't know. I always forget the last one, so it doesn't matter too much to
Workers.
me. Probably. But the point is it's a trade school. I think it's local 98 and it's I would say it's pretty big. I don't think it's just that's just one of their like smaller like companies, I guess it would be called.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fun learning opportunity for me because I tend to enjoy stuff that I know little to nothing about. And then getting into it, I get fixated on it and I develop faster than I would say most people do. And that's kind of where I am with the Foreman Signs job that I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Uh I've been there for like a week, literally. And the first like initial day I literally just they just ran me through what I was gonna do, and then today specifically I started actually like working on signs, cutting out letters, like stencils, stuff like that, like really using the machinery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Do you have like a
with
long term goal in mind, or is you're just kind of playing it by
so
ear and
m-
just
my my long-term goal is to get into the electrician's trade
yeah.
because you get like pension and all that
Yeah.
stuff. It's a career. It's not like
No,
a
I know, but do you have
part-time.
like
Yeah.
you want to start your own business or do you want to
Okay,
like
so yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. Yes. So I was thinking of trying to start up a little shop once I got into the electrician's trade, and I would have to use I would have to do the shop while working for them
right?
because their contract makes it so you can't do anything electrical related
Okay.
until 10 years after. So like if you quit, the contract states that like you can't like void it. Like there's no way to.
Oh
You
wow.
have to wait 10 years before you do anything electrical related. So
Wow.
I could probably start up a company and then hire people, but I wouldn't personally be able to do any work related to it unless it was under the table. Like I wouldn't be able to join another company because I went through their schooling essentially,
Okay, that makes
and
sense. I
they
mean,
and they and they paid me to go through their schooling. I'm not paying them, so it works.
oh okay.
Yes, because that's the whole point of trade school. You get paid while learning. It has to be for unions. Has to be for unions.
Right,
I'm not saying
for
any trade
certain
school.
trades. I mean, I'm sure there's some where you
Yes, yes,
pay
yes.
to go and
Well, I mean, like if you go to like a tech school for trades, then you're
right.
gonna pay them. But if you go to a union, like
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
point
Like
of
my
unions
uncle
is that
paid
you
to
put all
go
your money. Yes,
to HVAC school and is doing pretty damn well.
HVAC,
And I
right?
tell a lot of people, don't go
Because
to college
yeah,
because
I mean,
and me and Will talked about this on episode 3, I think, or 2. Um, college is
kind of a scam.
unless you know exactly what you want to do. In my case, like I know exactly what I want to do with my life, and you know that you are like in the park service. You ain't going nowhere without a college degree. I mean, I'm sure there's people who have, but to make it easier on yourself, you're not going to be able to do it, especially in the interpretation world. It's just hard. If you know exactly what you want to do and your mind is set and you're stubborn like I am and know what you want to do, then that's different. But if you don't, just pick up a trade, go to the military. The Coast Guard's a great option. I just had a cousin go to the Coast Guard. My brother's considering the Coast Guard. It's just a good option.
And it's an easy way to get extra time to think about what you do want to do.
Yeah, I mean, do you know how long your schooling's gonna be?
So for the electrician's trade,
Yeah,
specifically IBW, I'm pretty sure it's a 5-year program, but you can do all year round classes, and I'm pretty sure you can make it 2 to 3 years.
yeah. I mean, it
I'm not too
depends.
familiar with it yet because I'm still in the selection program. I'm still I haven't even got the test date yet. So I'm not even in interviews yet. So there's like 3 stages. There's application, then you take a test. If you pass the test, then you get an interview, and if they like you in the interview, you get accepted to the school. So it's
Yeah,
like a program. It's
I
like a
mean, I know
selection program.
some trade schools are like 18 months, but that's straight. You know, you're not doing all these
Yeah,
breaks and shit.
but that's also it depends on the trade, right?
Right,
It's
right,
not
right.
like if you're becoming a painter or a carpenter, it probably wouldn't be as long as like a steam fitter or an electrician, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah. Hmm.
Because it depends on this. There's a lot of safety precautions that are different for each local, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then a big thing is learning all the
So
fucking codes and shit.
yeah.
You know,
Oh.
there's a lot of like, an outlet's got to be every 18 inches or 3 feet, or
Mm-hmm.
that wire that is X amount long has to be put in X wide conduit, and this wire can't be with this wire,
Exactly.
and the ground wire must sit on this side and must be grounded here. And I'm sure there's a million things that I don't even know that have to be
There's a
followed.
million things that yeah, because then you have to make sure that your stuff's good for the other like locals, like the other guys.
Right.
Like you can't be interfering with the ventilation or the
Yeah.
carpenters or whatever. But the good thing about the electrician's trade is that they kind of work around you because you power their stuff. Like you give their
Yeah.
stuff the ability to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they kind of have to fuck all with whatever you do.
Yeah,
Like they're just like, ah,
there's some awesome videos of like tradesmen, tradespeople in buildings. They're like, fuck, here come the electricians, and then like it'll be like an electrician ran a wire through a place where the piping was gonna go that's already marked with Sharpie, and then the guy just takes his drill and just fucking drills through the wire.
that's
I
hilarious.
mean, there's some awesome stuff like just because the
I don't know.
trades all bash each other. It's like,
Yes, that's the whole thing.
yeah,
There was
it's
a back when my dad was younger, because he's in the HVAC, like sheet metal workers basically. Uh, the carpenters and his local had a baseball game, and they were all drunk and like just like having fun. And my dad was taking a shit, and they all started. He came out of the toilet, and they're all riding, beating the crap out of each other, and it was like the funniest story I ever heard. Probably it was
oh
probably the most
man,
entertaining thing I was ever described.
yeah. I
But
mean,
it was good, yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's plenty of like, I'm sure, dude, like the trades people that have been in it for like, dude, who knows,
Over 20 years,
like
30
they
years
probably
even.
have some fucking awesome stories.
My dad's got a story about Joey the Mop.
Oh
Now
boy.
Joey the Mop is he's a small fella. He ain't the mightiest of people. I'll say that. But legend prevails and tells that he killed someone with a mop.
Oh, that's good.
Not intentionally, but allegedly he murdered someone with a mop.
Oh man. Well,
And
good thing the statute of limitations is up on that, huh?
yes. There is
um,
no confirmation on that, yes.
but yeah, Joey, anything else you want to add to to my yapping session that you've been a part of?
Well, I mean, I feel like I've actually got a fair bit of time, probably like 5 to 10 minutes now to yap myself. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure how
mean,
long it's been, but I would say
now
I've
that I yapped so much, I'll probably bring you back on for another one soon.
yeah.
Um,
What I was gonna say is so obviously you have a I would say a large enjoyment for history and all that.
yeah.
So what is your like final goal? Is it like a university history teacher? high school? Like, are you doing that, or are you gonna be doing the tours on Gettysburg or
So,
tours on the like battles of Gettysburg and stuff? Yeah,
so I used to want to be a professor, and then I realized that I
yeah,
don't want to go to school for that long. Um,
right. Because that's how
yeah,
many
and then
years?
it could be 7.
Could
I
be
mean,
7.
you can do programs where you can get your master's and your PhD at the same time, and you can get your master's and
Right.
your bachelor's at the same time, and
That's probably psychotic.
yeah, and with refing, it just will never happen. Um,
Right.
so realistically, the way I've been looking at it recently is I've been talking to the seasonal here. Her name's Abby. She's great. She's I've been talking to her about the seasonal position and stuff like that. She's working on her PhD at West Virginia right now, and I was wondering I could just be a seasonal for my life. Seasonal because the seasonal starts like 2 weeks ago, like I just did when I was done hockey, and then they end right when I'm about to be right when I'm usually done August whatever, and or probably a little bit later than that, maybe first week of September, and then I could just ref. So for the few years that I can be a seasonal and then ref, and it'll be perfectly fine. Um, but yeah, I mean, my long term goal is to get a full time position at the National Park Service at some level. To be interpreting the history and be talking to the public is really the goal. Um, but like I said, the further you move up in the Park Service, the further away you get from what you love. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. I don't want to deal with the kids, especially in secondary education and the politics of it all right now. And I mean, like when we were kids, if we brought home a bad grade, it was what the fuck did you do? And now they go to the
Yeah.
teacher and was like, "What are you doing? Like, how did my kid get this grade?" It just doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
It's never the kid's fault anymore
Yeah, and even my
because everyone's
director,
just like too
even my
protective, even.
boss, the director of interpretation, education, and visitor services, she got out of teaching because of all that garbage. So, I mean,
Wow.
and that's really the reason the way teachers are treated nowadays is the reason why we have no teachers. We're on a very shorter.
No quality ones, at least.
Yeah, I mean, so I am gonna probably get my teaching certification and be a sub for a little bit, make some money while I'm waiting for a park
Right.
service job. But I'm not doing a full time position, at least right now. Um, obviously
Right.
things change. I mean, anything
Who
can
knows?
happen.
Maybe you get a class that really changes your whole perspective, even.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Everything
it's
is a possibility.
it's all possible. The whole thing's possible. Um,
Yeah.
but like I said, like it's the goal is the park service. So, um,
So that's your like end goal. That's like your like completion in life, basically.
yeah. I mean, there's also the possibility of starting my own business. If nothing
What would your
works,
business be
I don't know. I
related?
mean,
Like,
I have the pressure washing stuff now. We didn't have a
oh,
break.
okay.
We're gonna cut to a break for our sponsors.
Oh boy.
I'm just kidding. But the Battles Banquets podcast is sponsored by Will Weaver Music. Please go on Spotify and follow Will Weaver Music and listen to his new song, which isn't that new anymore, but True Man. It's a phenomenal song. We're also sponsored by the PSP Pressure Washing, Patrick Schubert Pressure Washing. If you want your house to be serviced, please email
I
pspressure.washing23
can vouch.
at
He does a
gmail.com.
good job.
Thank you. We're sponsored by the Eastern Collegiate Hockey Officials Association for all your officiating needs. Reach out to the Eastern ECHOA. And we're also sponsored by Rad Recording or Rad Soundplex, I think it's called. So please check them out. Also check out Will on Spotify. He's very good musician, and he has more stuff in the works coming out at the end of summer. I'm almost positive. So be on the lookout for that. Go on Instagram, follow us, battles _and_ banquets, and follow at Will Weaver Music on everything. True Man is out everywhere, and Will Weaver has. I love his music, so check that out. But yeah, Joseph, what do we want to pick up here? We're at 58, so I don't want to run too much longer. But then again, if we're still communicating, like,
I mean, it's really up to you at this point. I'm just I'm just trying to keep it alive for you. It doesn't matter
yeah, I
if
mean, we don't
you
have.
feel like
I mean, if there's something that I mean, I have new environments here, down here.
what do you mean by that?
Like I
Like
was going to talk
elaborate.
about moving down here, and
Oh, like and how it's been.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Oh, I mean, I can talk about like simple stuff. Like I can get into like I guess lifestyle right now.
yeah, I mean,
So
if you,
I've been shopping around for cars because I've been using my parents for a little bit,
yeah,
and I think I found one that I'm really like. I really like.
car market is ridiculous right now. Me and
Uh,
my brother did both get lucky
yeah.
on vehicles, and I'm blessed and grateful for that.
So I wouldn't say mine's a great deal, but it's definitely up there. It's all right. It's 67,000 miles,
That's actually not
and it's
bad.
like 9 grand. Nine
That's not
grand. So
bad.
it's like, and I was thinking of getting it. I like the body. I don't know shit about cars. So like, if you ask me what the model is, I'd be like, car model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
So like,
Yeah,
but other than that, I mean, like, I really like the way it looks. I think it's a Ford. I'm not too sure. I literally have no idea. I know nothing about cars. I just know how to put wheels on cars and change the oil occasionally. That's about it.
yeah, yeah. Um,
And yeah, I'm
yeah. I
hoping
mean,
to get
dude.
that within by the end of the month.
Yeah, end of the month is Saturday, Joseph. So you better get cooking.
No, not this month. And I'm saying like end of the next like upcoming month.
Okay, cool, cool,
Because
man.
like we are literally at the end of this month.
Yeah, we're
I
here.
don't
We
mean the
made it.
very last day. I mean like this is literally the end of the month. So at
Yeah,
the end of the month as in
yeah.
June.
Yeah, I moved into the government housing. This is my side of the room, which I've basically taken over, and that side could be taken over later. But yeah, I mean, like, there's just certain things I don't like. I don't like change. I wasn't nervous coming down here. Um, I don't know how to cook. I'm learning how to cook. That's one of the hard things. I really don't know how to cook, and I'm also
If you can read, you can cook, Pat. You got this.
yeah. I mean, like, I've been trying to like because I really didn't want to spend a lot of money on food, so I've been staying away from you know
Fit ordering.
ordering and stuff like that. I mean, I've been doing very
Dude,
well.
just buy some chicken, get a big pot of rice. That'll last you like
Yeah,
two
I
weeks.
got a crock pot for my birthday, so
That's
so
nice.
um,
Looking out for you already.
yeah.
Good
I mean,
guys, good
I've
guys.
been on fire down here. I got you. I mean, I could cook. I mean, I can cook like I could cook breakfast like good. So
Make some sauerkraut and sausage. I'm waiting.
I don't like sauerkraut.
You're devious for that actually.
So yeah, I
Come on,
mean,
bro.
I'm
You
gonna
got the
probably
crock
end it
pot and
here.
no sauerkraut.
Yeah, we're at 102. I mean,
Alright.
I just
We
yapped.
got some banquet in there. We got some banquet in there a little
Yeah.
bit with the sauerkraut and yeah. Okay.
So, sorry. So yeah. Like I said again, I pretty appreciate everybody for watching. I apologize for like all the garbage that we've been trying to deal with. Episode 3 was a complete flop, and
Bump, bump.
we could not figure that out. And then also, the lack of posts. I'm gonna try and do one every week. That's the goal, but I don't know how that's gonna work with my whole schedule and work and it could look different. It could be me and Joey instead of me and Will, depending on what Will's up to and what Will wants to do.
I need some practice if that's the case.
Um, yeah, you need to read a history book too.
Yeah, I do.
But yeah, so appreciate everybody for watching. Please check out our sponsors; they'll be in the description. And check out Will on Spotify. And anything else, Joey? Closing remarks here.
No, I mean just thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you for stepping into the 11th hour. Like I said, Will couldn't be here and didn't want to be here, which I get. Like
Cause
the virtual sucks. I mean, it's not
is he
as
not is he not good with like
no, it's just that the virtual sucks.
Discord and
Like
stuff?
it just sucks. It's not as
Yeah,
fun.
doesn't feel the same.
No, it's just bad. It's just not. As,
Right. It's better. It's better. It's easier to talk with people in person as well.
yeah, and yeah, it's just
You
better.
don't feel that barrier. Like it's just like you don't cut each other off as much even, just because like there's no delay, stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah, it's just easier to have a fluent conversation, and we're not fucking dealing with.
Exactly.
But yeah, appreciate you for coming. Like I said, Joe, maybe we'll play a game of Siege before we go to sleep tonight.
Of course. Of course.
Um,
Maybe Sloop on some Sea of Thieves. You already know.
all right. Thanks everybody for watching. Please check out Will on Spotify and follow us on Instagram at battles_and_banquets. That's where you get all our updates. And also subscribe if you haven't. And like I said, new episode hopefully next week. But again, we will have updates on our Instagram. And if not next week, look out for the following week. I know we're going to have Justin Rod on here soon. He's leaving the 19th to go out of the country. Although I want to get him on with the three of us, just like I wanted to do with you.
Right.
But like I said, we can't. Like, Will is just... Well, I agree with Will, though. He doesn't want to do the virtual, and it makes sense because...
When you say the three of us, you're referring to you, Will, and I, right?
Correct.
Okay, I wasn't sure because you just mentioned Justin.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you meant the
Yeah.
three of us. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do want to get Will on here and with us, and that will be the goal going forward. And we're gonna try and get some special guests again in the fall. And again, the podcast will be fully in motion in August. It will be back to where me and Will are in the same place. We will have an actual agenda, and I won't just have to yap about Bull Run, which is basically what's gonna be these episodes for a little while because that's what I'm doing. But like I said, thanks everybody for watching. I hope everybody enjoyed the Memorial Day weekend. If you want to check out Manassas, our next big thing is going to be Juneteenth. We're doing our big celebration on the 15th of June. Yeah. So I will, please check out our Instagram for any more updates, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you all next week or the following. I hope everybody has a great
Bye-bye.
week.